Welcome to Illo Talk. I am Cory Kerr, and this is day 27 of Sticker Stint, where I do 30 stickers in 30 days. I've got 2 more left after this, and I'm going to be honest, I am running out of ideas. But I want to talk about a couple things today. The last 2 videos that I did were talking about why people don't make things, and I actually went on to a Facebook group that I started that involves doing side projects, and I asked why people don't make things. It was really interesting. A lot of insecurity, a lot of people very concerned that the things that they're making aren't very good. Several people, saying that they just don't have time and that they're super busy and things like that. But it was a pretty interesting survey. The cool thing about it that I really, really liked was that as all these people came out and said, here are my struggles, there were, 2 or 3 people in each comment that came on and said, you're awesome, you're great, and we're super supportive. It was kind of a neat thing. Which got me thinking about when I was starting out and some of the things that I found interesting. And so I want to talk about this idea of experience, this concept of understanding and knowledge versus experience and wisdom. And why is it that we have to experience something ourselves before it really lands and we really believe it? So I've told some of these stories before on Illo Talk here, but I might refer to them again or whatever. But it's interesting to me that everybody agrees on a set of general advice. And there's things like get 50% up front. Don't turn over your source files until you get the final payment. Have a contract signed before you start work. Don't work for somebody who's trying to convince you that it'll be great for your exposure or whatever. There's lots of those, right? There's a ton of them. There's a list of them, and everybody's list varies slightly, but it's all basically the same, right? Here's how to avoid being screwed by being a creative and designer, artist, illustrator, painter, photographer, somebody doing something. And so I heard all these things in school and from other people as well. And then I remember graduating, and then I remember doing a lot of those things, doing work that I know I shouldn't have done for the price, because it was just not, I was getting paid pennies. If you look at people who are like, oh man, $300 for a logo is so inexpensive or so expensive and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, one, you are going to trade, your brand, your presence, your ability to communicate to your customer based on this logo. And 2, it might take that individual, a week to do that logo. Because it's not just the logo itself; it's also the idea, and this isn't a video defending logos and whatnot. I really just want to say, there takes time in the process, and I always have students sit down and say, okay, listen, if you think $300 is a lot, or $1,000 is a lot, or $50 is a lot, I don't know, whatever it is, I want you to take that amount of money and divide it by the amount of time that it will take you to produce that thing, and then figure out how much you're going to make an hour. And that's always super eye-opening, because they're always like, oh, wow, I didn't realize, how little money I was making. It's like, yeah. And here's the other thing. The other thing is, businesses are coming to you because of 2 things. 1, they need something that you can do. They need something that you can do. 2, they can't do it themselves. And so in them coming to you, you are adding value to their business. You are creating a situation that increases the profitability, increases the sales, increases the presence, whatever that is, increases the, whatever you want to say, it increases a number of things in their business, and they benefit financially from that. You've added value to their business, and the only thing that makes it worth that to you is to get value in return. Normally that value is monetary, right? But it's not always monetary. There is some legit situations where you would do something, for the exposure or for whatever. But usually people promising the exposure don't actually have the ability to deliver the exposure. But there are definitely situations where your name is solidly attached to the thing that is made, and the thing that is made has some legs and can go somewhere. Totally worth it to do it in certain situations. But I have a rule where I just never let anybody convince me, talk me into doing something for exposure. And here's the thing. I knew all that stuff. I worked for a guy. My first job out of college, I went and I worked for this company, and it felt like every day that place was going to go out of business. I literally felt like every single day he's just going to show up to work and lay us off. He's going to lay us all off. There's no work. Everything is crazy. The work that does come, is an emergency all the time. And then I started to notice that there was this kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul situation where we were always slightly behind. We'd get half down, and that half down would go to finish off some other job, and then that puts us in debt or behind on the next job that we took the half down to move that over. It was like this weird business Ponzi scheme or whatever. And then it all kind of came down to this idea of, super emotional decision making, no like written solid set of rules, to be able to run the business by, and it was just kind of fly by the seat of your pants or whatever. And I went to I after a year or two of that, I got really frustrated, and in a rage, I wrote a big giant list of rules of business that I was going to follow. And I should revisit that. That's good. That's good video fodder, I think. But these rules of business were super interesting, and I was very solidly aware that I would not do those things, or that I would do those things, and I would follow my rules of business, and I would never be like so and so, and right? So I quit my job and I started a business, and I found myself doing the exact things that I saw this guy do, because when it came down to it, it is exceptionally difficult to stick to those principles until you've been burned. Until you understand why I, Cory Kerr, should follow these rules. It's just an esoteric practice. It's just an ideal. It's something that's nice to talk about, but in the real world, when the rubber hits the road, sometimes you just can't get half down, or sometimes, whatever, those situations. And there are legit situations like that. I don't know, like in publishing and in editorial illustration and things, like each industry has like different norms and whatever, but generally speaking, freelance, you want to get paid up front, whatever. And that's not always the case. You can't always do that or whatever. But I found it was super interesting that I so quickly, months after writing this thing and being super frustrated, and the reason that I quit and started my thing was because of all this, so quickly fell into those practices. And now I am like absolutely solid, and my conversations with clients go something like this. I'm sorry, I have certain rules. These are the way. Actually, I don't apologize. I just say this is the way I run it. Let me tell you about the milestones. Here's why the contract is like this. Everything in the contract goes like this. At each one of these milestones, this will happen. You have this number of revisions before we kind of go through that milestone and whatever. And we go through, and they know what to expect, and we go through and we understand everything that's going on. And then I say things like this. Now, I have this rule where I get I need to get paid before I deliver the final workable files. You can see low resolution stuff and comps and things, obviously for purposes of approval. But before I give you print ready stuff, then I need to get the final payment there. And I know that seems kind of like a stickler thing or whatever, but I've just been burned in the past, and I know that you, as a good person, would never like actively try to screw somebody, but it's just a rule that I have to follow, and I hope you understand, because other people do, and other people have. Not you, of course. You would never do this because you're above board and not actively trying to hose people or whatever. But it's happened. It's happened in the past, and so it's just a rule I have. And usually at that point in time, people are like, "Oh yeah, sure." But there has been situations where it's like, "Oh, but you got to understand, I'm in a huge hurry and I really need this thing, and I got to get." And it's like, "Cool. Well, if you're in a huge hurry, I can wait. I don't mind. Give me that check." Well, see, our accounting department, it takes 3 weeks to get the thing, and that type of thing, and whatever. And it's like, that's fine. I'll see you in 3 weeks. Oh no, but it's a really big deal. We really need this right now, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, well then go get your accountant to cut a check really fast. If this is an emergency situation, then you should be able to circumvent your practices, because after I give you those files, there's no reason to pay me, right? I have nothing. I hold no reason to pay me, and I'm not looking to destroy this relationship, and I hope that you're not looking to destroy this relationship, because I would love to do stuff like this with you in the future. Anyway, those type of things. But the interesting thing about it is, everybody that I talk to goes through the same thing. Everybody seems to need to get burnt and have that experience personally before they solidly follow those rules. I've even known students who I've told these horror stories to, about losing out on thousands of dollars and all this stuff, and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm never going to do that," and this, that, and then I see them on Twitter a couple years later. I can't believe that I did that. I can't believe that I did that. They were even following the rules for a while, and then there was just somebody that had just the right amount of sob story, or just the right amount of convincing, or just the right amount of trustworthiness about themselves, and they get burned. And it's not that we expect people to burn us, but it's just that now I'm not going to look for everybody to be a hangman, right? But I'm also not going to give people the rope to hang me with. That's what I'm talking about. Is client management. I'm talking about just getting out there and just managing the expectations. Managing the expectations is the name of the game. No reasonable person is going to be upset when you say, okay, so I'm ready for final payment. If you have discussed that is going to happen at the time that we sign the contract, and it's all understood and everybody's great, and you've been working well with them and they work well with you throughout the process, at the end of that, you're just gonna get a check. It's gonna be awesome and it'll be fine, right? But if you just spring it on them all of a sudden, then it seems weird, right? Because it was something that they didn't expect. You didn't manage the expectations well, and that becomes problematic, right? And so it also is not offensive to someone, to a business, to a person, to whatever. It's not offensive to say, hey, this is a thing that I do, a current business practice that I have. I am a businessman. This is a business transaction that we are having right now. These are the ways that I would like to have that transaction. You negotiate, you give and take a little bit, but it's all in writing the way that you want to do it. And then when you just follow that contract and follow those expectations, you're good. And when somebody comes to you and says, hey, project creep, here's this thing, I want you to do this as well. Then you say, oh yeah, I'd love to do that, that's great. Let me just get back to the contract here. It looks like we've already had this number of revisions, and so let me get you a change order, and I'll let you know how much that'll cost, and then you can decide whether you want to move forward with that or not. And then they go, oh, you've set expectations there for this is somebody who's going to follow this contract. I can't just ask them to do whatever I want. I can't just pay them one time and then they just work for me for perpetuity until their death. This is kind of an ongoing thing. Then it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Oftentimes they will say, oh, I didn't realize that's not that big of a deal. That's fine. Or if you have 3 revisions and you're in your second revision, just say, just remember, the next revision is going to be the last revision before I have to do a change order. So just make sure that you go through it really well and that we get everything that we need and that type of stuff, and just according to the contract, right? And then they come back and they say, oh, okay, yeah, I want this change. Good. This is the final change, just so you know. Great. That's great. And then they come to you, I know this is going to cost me more, but there's this one thing that is really important, so just let me know how much that costs. That's usually how that goes, rather than, what? You told me that blah, blah, blah. You're just trying to squeeze blood from a stone. I'm a starving business and blah, 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 blah. You don't need those people. You don't work for those people. And it doesn't matter, right? So anyway, I just find it interesting. I don't know why. And I'm wondering if this is the case with you guys. Did you have to get burned before you believed those rules? And your rules could differ. I'm not talking like everybody gets 50% down or whatever. Sometimes I take 30% down, sometimes I take 50. Sometimes it's a contractual obligation, contractual situation with somebody that I've worked with a number of times, and I trust them and they trust me because of our experiences together. I'm not talking about friendships or family relationships. I'm talking about business experiences that we've had together, repeat clients and things like that. There are things that you can do to adjust your rules, but I'm wondering, whatever your rules are, whatever they are, did they come about because you heard and listened to other creatives with experience and took that upon yourself to say, this is the way I'm going to run it? Or did they come about because even though you knew better, you didn't follow those rules and then you got burnt? And now that you've been burnt, there's that pain, and every time you do something, you're like, oh, but I remember that one time. I remember that one time that I did this. I'm curious which one of those ways it goes for you, or is it different? Let me know in the comments what you think of that. Anyway, here's today's sticker. We've got 2 more, and then I am done with Sticker Stint, and I'm going to jump back into my book. So I'll be jumping back into my fairy tale book, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back 20 plus episodes in Illo Talk, and you'll start seeing me inking on paper instead of on my iPad, and all kinds of archaic things like that, which I'm kind of itching to get back into. I'm kind of excited about it. Anyway, you can catch my stuff at kuretake.com. I would love it if you would like this video and share this video and subscribe to this channel, and go like and comment on stuff that I'm sharing on Instagram, because that helps the little AI bots that are decide who gets to see my stuff, show it to more people, and the more people that see it, the better it is and all that jazz. So anyway, catch you guys later. You guys are awesome. I'm out.